We begin this story with the words, "Worship, worship the Emperor." As statues of people with a cloth covering their eyes and with prayer hands are seen everywhere. Blessings of the earth, and praises of the heavens. So worship. Gather the blessing and praise. The beautiful petals of a sakura flower soon turn into flames as a mighty axe wielded by a heavily armored soldier is swung in the air as he shouts, "Worship the Emperor." But then the axe he wields soon cracks and breaks into pieces just as a deep slash cuts him across, spilling the soldier's blood everywhere as he and his weapon fell apart. Soon, spears appeared, wielded by even more soldiers. This is the group that was exclusively drafted by the Emperor. We are then introduced to another soldier, wielding a red color blade and wearing a white jacket. The Special Task Force or Special Forces for short. There is only one reason why they exist, to protect the mighty Emperor Leon Kavalan. That is the reason why the Special Forces exist. Blood has been spilled, soldiers turn into dead bodies as the lone soldier who wore the white jacket stood alone. Surrounded by weapons and dead soldiers. He thinks of the reason behind the Special Forces is bullshit. This man right here is called Yan. He is the commander of the Special Forces. He turns around to see that one of the soldiers he cut apart was still moving and talking. Kill, worship, were its words. Soon enough, the other soldiers began to crawl together on the ground, repeating the words, kill, worship, over and over again as Yan watched them. The dead soldiers started to combine with one another, forming a new kind of demonic creature. Yan looks at them in anger, thinking about how they couldn't be free even after becoming a corpse. Dear Lord, the soldiers had formed a horrific shape, as Yan realized that they could never be free from being the Emperor's puppet. Underneath the armor, pure red flesh could be seen as the undead monster shouts the words, "Worship the Emperor," as it prepares to strike Yan down. Without hesitation, Yan counterattacks immediately, with his eyes turned yellow. The flames of his battle continue to spread all around the castle. As we delve deeper into the castle, we are greeted by a purple-haired fairy with black eyes. A hand appears as a voice asks the fairy if it was shocked because of how loud the outside was. A man dressed in a red cloak barely covering his private parts sat on a throne, telling the fairy to not worry as it was nothing. This man is Emperor Leon Kavalan. He looks in front, seeing Yan and telling him that he didn't understand why Yan, the one who had the most loyalty, would revolt. Yan, the commander of the Special Forces, with one of his arms missing and multiple injuries across his body, walks towards the Emperor. His eyes were still determined as the mask he wore finally shattered. The Emperor then asks him about how long it has been since he was commander as he could recall the days when Yan was a recruit. The place where Yan came from was called the Special Forces Training Hall, which was called the Pit of Solitude. It was the place where he was a slave soldier and where he became the commander. Leon knew that Yan could have obtained everything with his bare hands, making him wonder if there was something he was unsatisfied with. Yan thought about his question for a moment, before snapping a piece of bone that had entered the side of his body as Leon continues to watch over him. Yan had stabbed himself with the bone through his own ear, wiggling the bone around until something green came out of his head as he pulled it out. His eyes were full of rage as he found out that Leon had shoved a bug into his head, calling out Leon's question of Yan having everything as bullshit since he had lost everything. He continues to shout at Leon, that he didn't even have his memories anymore, and that he didn't know who his family is or even who he was. Just as Yan was letting out his rage, Leon grabbed onto the fairy, gripping her tightly in his hands before taking a bite out of her head and muttering something in a strange language. In an instant, something quick zooms past Yan, leaving him stunned. It turns out to be the sword that Leon was holding onto. It was so fast to the point that Yan, the Special Forces commander, couldn't even react as massive amounts of blood left his body. Leon finally stood up as Yan began to fall backward. He tells Yan that even though he didn't know how he knew about the bug, he thought of this moment as a shame, as with a creepy smile and blood dripping from his lips. Leon tells Yan that he was a toy that he liked. As he heard those words, Yan's vision of the world turned white as everything started to fade. He closed his eyes, believing that everything he did was in vain. But just as an image of a girl smiling appears in his mind, a voice shouts at him to wake up. Yan's eyes were wide open as he tried to figure out what was going on as he swore that his heart had been stabbed. And so, he tells himself to calm down. Looking around, he realized that the place he was at was familiar to him. He touches a giant pillar, before coming to the sudden realization that this is the Great Stone Sword. The Great Stone Sword is the symbol of the Special Forces Training Hall. You cannot count the number of soldiers who had died in front of this great stone sword. And looking at his body, Yan could see that he had become smaller and was looking the same clothes he wore as a recruit. But as he starts to realize everything, a voice tells him to be quiet just as a massive figure appears right behind him. With a fist aimed directly at Yan, he sees this coming and immediately blocks the attack with both of his arms, but it still sends him flying back into the wall, causing him to grunt in pain. The one who attacked him is called Roman, the Special Forces 12th recruit. He tells Yan that as arrogant as he was nothing. Yan slowly stood up while remembering who Roman was. He walks over to Roman, asking him if they were in the middle of training. Roman tells him that training was just an excuse for him to beat him up, as he knew that no one would care if a low-ranking recruit dies. But his words had no effect on Yan as he thought about how his situation was impossible. But seeing the great stone sword, his small body, and the conversation he was having with Roman, he gave out a creepy smile, after realizing that he had returned to the past. Yan didn't care about the reason why he came back what was important to him was the fact that he could start again. He swears the current me won't make the same mistakes as before. This time he was definitely going to behead the emperor. And so, he starts off by telling Roman something important. Yan reveals to him that he wouldn't even get a girlfriend when he was 40. Blowing the guy's mind away to the point that he becomes angry enough to throw another punch at Yan, telling him that he was talking bullshit. Yan manages to dodge the punch this time. Looking at it, he couldn't believe how pathetic he was to have been hit by such a punch. His words anger Roman even further as he unleashes the Dark Chaos 7th formation, punching Rampage. But none of his hits landed onto Yan, who watches him closely and even comments that his moves weren't bad. Yan then steps in close to Roman, much to his surprise. He tells Roman that he was going to give him a piece of advice. As he focuses his fingertips onto his chest, telling him that after you close the gap between you and your opponent, do it like this. And so, Yan's hand transforms from the fingertips into a fist. He had unleashed the skill called Punching Rampage, 1-inch punch, just like Bruce Lee. Yan's attack was enough to cause Roman's eyes to roll backward as he wondered how it was possible for Yan to learn an intermediate level skill. But his lesson doesn't end there as Yan goes in for another blow but is stopped by something that flew past his face. He sees that a pendant had fallen onto the ground, making him wonder since when did he have such an item. As he picked up the pendant, he told Roman that they were going to stop here for today. As Yan held the pendant in his hand, he felt that there was something inside. His eyes widened upon seeing the pendant opened by itself, revealing an old photo. As he continued to stare at it, tears dripped down onto the photo as Yan knew that it was a photo of a man and a woman with a younger version of himself. It was the first time he had seen their faces, but he instantly knew that these people were his family. F in the chat. Memories, love, and family. These were the words he had forgotten for 30 years and are only slowly making their way back to him. What he couldn't obtain even after burning the imperial capital down. What he couldn't even find after slaughtering the knights. It was now all in the pendant that he was holding in his hand right now. As he closes his eyes, as though he was praying to the pendant, Yan finally opens them, filled with determination. He realized that he had almost made the same mistake. He vowed that he was never going to waste his life on something as pathetic as revenge. He was going to escape from this place. Yan's goal is to get it back, the life he had lost with his family. The special forces that directly report to the Emperor, the Special Task Force. Verna Fortress's fall and the assassination of the Grand Duke of the North. The squad that had completed many such missions in the history of the Empire, along with the one who stood at the top of these forces. That was Special Task Force Commander Yan. The Emperor's right-hand man and the Empire's strongest knight, but look at him right now. The former Special Task Force Commander Yan is now struggling with his current body, despite having all that power and strength from before. He was currently carrying 2 heavy barrels on his little back, wondering why he had gotten himself into a shitty state. He was currently a Mission Purification Squad's cleaner. We now turn to 2 soldiers battling it out with one another in front of the great stone statue. There are 1,000 trainee soldiers in the Special Task Force. In this place, where everyone becomes stronger by killing each other to survive, an average of 3 to 4 people would die on a daily basis. Those empty spots would then be filled up by either kidnapping others or by volunteers who want to join. The training ground is in the Dragon's Den that's in the northwestern mountain ranges. The inside of this place is a labyrinth-like dungeon. Trainee soldiers are each assigned a number. The numbers are assigned based on the skills of the trainee soldier. and they can climb up the ranks through tests and competition. In a pyramid system where the treatment you receive can change depending on how high your number is, it's used to keep the trainee soldiers under complete control as they pull each other down and trample over one another. Under such a system, it's hard for the lowest ranked trainee soldier of the 900th batch of trainees to survive. As Yan carried the crates out the steps, we see that he is ranked 974. He also knew that low-ranked trainee soldiers can easily be replaced even if they die. Usually, they were just used for labor or to help in other people's training. Yan was happy and thought of himself as lucky for doing just labor. But then someone knocks into him, causing the crates he was carrying to fall to the ground. As he went on to pick them up, he asked the person if they didn't have eyes. 3 noble-looking soldiers stared at our boy, as it was revealed that there were trainee soldiers who stood at the top of the pyramid. The lady with the short hair apologizes to Yan for not seeing him. These were high-ranked trainee soldiers, the successors of the empire's nobles. For the sake of their loyalty to the empire, continuing the family line, and to keep the other families in check. Those are the reasons that the nobles would join the special task force, and while they're there, the training center would make life comfortable for them. They're also not required to have insects placed inside of them, as they were already prisoners through the privilege known as nobility. The high-ranked trainee soldiers would maintain their high ranks as they also receive the privileges and benefits of it. Among those trainee soldiers were these 3, Lorena Beowulf, Cruel Dwight, Kasia Everain. The 3 of them were always in the top 3. Cruel asks Lorena about why she apologized to trash like Yan. Our boy could sense that trouble was brewing. Cruel tells him that they weren't the same status even though they trained together, making him ask Yan about how a commoner dares to talk to them. Cruel continues to hurl insults at Yan, who silently takes them all in while thinking that it would be nice if he splits Cruel's head in half right here, but then he stops himself. Instead, Yan apologizes to him as he should have paid more attention. But instead of accepting the apology, Cruel spits onto Yan's face. Once again, he silently accepts the spit attack. Cruel continues to insult him, telling Yan that an apology was something only humans do. What he wanted from Yan was to beg, more specifically, get on the ground and beg for mercy. Our boy finally snaps and slices Cruel's head in half, but it turns out to be his imagination. Cruel finally backs off while Lorena still apologizes to Yan, telling him that she had taken care of the boxes for him. As Yan wipes the spit off his face, he thought it was good that the top 3 were satisfied with their ranks, as he needed them to be, because the longer they do that, the more advantageous it would be for him. As Yan carried the crates along a path leading to a door, he felt something. He could see that there was a strong bloodlust coming from the door's opening, meaning that somebody was waiting to ambush him. His first thought was Roman, but then again, he felt that the bloodlust was different. So he decides to feign ignorance and approach it head-on. He even said out loud that he was tired as he walked by the place, only to be greeted by somebody saying, "I've been waiting for you." The moment Yan turns to look at who it was, his face turns white as his eyes widened. It turns out to be Lorena Beowulf. We are introduced to the top wanted criminal that the Imperial Knights have failed to arrest, the Blue Iron Arm Galder. He committed his first murder at the age of 11 and formed a robber group at the age of 20. He attacked 23 villages and 17 guilds. That arm of his that can deflect even orichalcum became a symbol of fear. Until one day, Lorena herself carried just the arm of Gladder, reporting that she had arrested Iron Blue Arm Gladder. That's what she said as she dragged Galder's arm around. That sentence alone was enough for her to join the Imperial Knights. The Beowulf Duchy, one of the top 4 noble families that rule over the northern Snow Mountain region. The knights of the family say this of Lorena: she possesses the potential to become the strongest swordswoman in the continent, the young sword saint, and that she is the strongest completed product of the Beowulf family. Yan agrees with what they said about her, as he knew that she was the kind that he should never get involved with. Lorena then asks him about his objective and why he was hiding his true strength. Yan automatically knew that if she was his enemy, then he needed to get rid of her first. Yan denies knowing what she meant by that as Lorena reveals that she saw Yan training by the great sword statue by coincidence. She had thought that it was a duel between low-ranked trainee soldiers. But then she soon doubted her own eyes, because she saw a 1-inch punch that was totally out of league compared to the rest. Which made her wonder why Yan was still a low-ranked trainee soldier with those skills of his. But our boy acts dumb as he asks, "What is a 1-inch punch?" while thinking that he had made a mistake. Lorena calmly accepts his response, telling Yan that it seems like she made a mistake as she walked over to him. Yan sees this and wonders if she was really just going to let it go. Lorena then offers her hand to him, telling Yan that she was sorry for the sudden questions. But as he reaches for her hand, Lorena suddenly does the 1-inch punch. Yan could see this and thinks of it as Lorena testing him. He could clearly sense that it was a highly emotional attack, so he decided to do what was needed, which is to let her punch the shit out of his face. He quickly falls onto the ground after being hit, complaining to Lorena that it hurts a lot, leaving her stunned as she watches him roll on the floor. She thought that he was supposed to block it, but Yan continued to shout at her that she had gotten the wrong person. Lorena continues to apologize to Yan, believing that their interaction shouldn't have gone this way, but actually, this was all according to Yan's plan of acting like a pitiful commoner who got beaten up by a noble unfairly and to trigger that guilty conscience of hers. With that personality of hers, he knew that she probably wouldn't suspect anything. And so, Lorena decided to help out Yan with the box of crates. She followed him closely behind, telling Yan to speak casually to her since they were both just trainee soldiers. As they continue to walk together, Lorena tells him about how she believes that it isn't honorable for a high-ranked trainee soldier to treat a low-ranked trainee soldier as a slave. She even tells him that when she becomes the lord of a territory, she intends on protecting the assets of the slaves within her territory. As she went on to talk about her life, Yan could only think about how talkative she was than he expected her to be. They soon entered the room where the crates were to be placed. Yan thanked her for the help. But before she left, Lorena tells him that she hopes that she was wrong, making Yan wonder about what she was going to say next. She turns around one last time, asking Yan about whether he saw her attack, as she noticed that his eyes were following her hand the entire time. And so, she tells him once again that she hopes that she was mistaken about that as well. Lorena finally leaves the room and Yan alone, telling him that she would see him again. After she left, Yan thought about how sharp she was, making him wonder if there was a way for him to get her off his back. Then a question came into his mind: should I kill her right now? Yan knew that he could kill her easily right now, but if he did kill her, then he would turn the whole Beowulf family against him. He also knew that he would be a fool to make enemies of the Beowulf family just because she bothers him, as he needed to first focus on escaping. Looking around the cubicle of the toilet, Yan felt that the thing he was looking for was somewhere around here. While there were also deserters when he was the Special Task Force commander, most of them weren't able to escape from the training center. But one of the deserters managed to escape and was caught in a nearby forest. And so, Yan asked him nicely as to how he escaped. He then answered nicely because of how nicely Yan asked. Yes, in this world, nice is having hooks inserted into your back while you hang in the air. I'm gonna puke. The man reveals to Yan that what he was looking for was in the third area of the fifth cubicle of the abandoned toilet. As Yan scans the walls of the cubicle, he smiles after finding it. Pieces of the wall started to break down, as he recalls the escapee's words, that after breaking the wall of the fifth cubicle, an exit is found.
Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.